At Blackwater Turtle Refuge, we're always working towards the conservation of alligator snapping turtles, and one of the programs that we have is a research program, the Life and Development Documentation Study. Now, all of the turtles that are in this study are housed individually. We wanted to incorporate them into our centralized upflow filtration system to equalize the temperature of the water and all the parameters of the water for each of the turtles that were in this study. So while the turtles were in brumation this year, this was the project we spearheaded and finally got it completed. And I want to walk you through this, show you how we did it, and show you how it went. I started this one out by getting a hernia repair surgery. I thought it was appropriate. We're going to be doing some hard work during brumation, and I better get things fixed up.
Okay, the hottest project here at Blackwater Turtle Refuge at the moment is taking all of the turtles that are in our research development program. There are 11 different aquariums here. Each one of the turtles in our research study are housed as individuals, but I want the water to be one filtered system. So we're going to utilize this 700-gallon tank that's buried 7 feet down in this pit, and we're going to tie all of the aquariums together into one centralized filtration system. So I broke out this trench in the floor, putting the drain lines that'll return the water out of each aquarium. They will all be tied together into one filtration system. It's going to downflow through here. It's all tied together, goes into this 700-gallon upflow filtration system. There's a video on how I constructed that.
So the first thing I did was used an air chisel to peck away at the concrete until I got it all removed. Then I dug the dirt out extra deep, laid a layer of pea gravel in there so I could get everything leveled and connect the aquariums that were on both sides of a walkway to each other. Everything needs to run downhill, so I used a level to do that. I laid a layer of styrofoam in the bottom to insulate the plumbing against the cold temperatures of the ground, and then I foamed around all of the plumbing, covered over it with a piece of styrofoam as well, and then poured cement over the top of that. Now the aquariums on both sides of the aisle were connected to one another, and the plumbing lines, the water feed lines were in there. I used PEX because it's very quick to work with, and glued PVC together for the drain lines, all feeding back to the pit where the filtration tank and the pumps are. And once all that plumbing was completed under the floor and the concrete was poured back in, given it time to cure, it was time to start plumbing all these aquariums together. Again, I'm using PEX, so it's going to make things quite a bit easier. But what we want is an individual fill line to 11 different aquariums with 11 different control valves so that we can regulate the flow through each aquarium. It will all drain over standpipes and drain by gravity back into the filtration pit. All of the habitats that I build, that I keep turtles in, work with an overflow concept. So you're adding water to each one of the habitats, and it's overflowing over the edge of a standpipe. This skims the oils that are rising to the surface, and they go direct to the filter system for you. Check that out. That little one's in brumation and doesn't have a clue what we're doing. The next thing that I did was start gluing all the PVC drain lines from each aquarium, connecting each aquarium together into one drain line. Now it had to come from two different directions because we're on each side of the aisle. So I glued all the PVC together, leading to the pit. I didn't worry about the add lines yet or the fill lines, and I didn't take care of anything in the pit. I just plumbed all the aquariums together. Now I always use flex when I go from the aquarium to the main line. That way it allows for movement of the aquarium. And when I connected two aquariums together not using flex, the piece of PVC changed length when it cooled down and cracked the aquarium. That's another video. To connect all of the aquariums together with the fill lines, I used the vinyl tubing like you use when you're installing a refrigerator, ice maker, or something of that sort. I didn't buy the push-in expensive connectors. You can warm this tubing up with a hot air gun and shove it on barbed fittings. So I used T's where necessary and elbows where necessary, and ran one of these fill lines to each aquarium with a separate control valve at each aquarium. The control valves that I used, I was able to find at an RV salvage yard for 25 cents a piece. I did install a PEX shutoff valve at the bottom right before it goes through the floor of each side of the system. You want to be careful when you're cutting this tubing. I received the first turtle-related injury of 2024. So once all the drain lines and the fill lines were hooked up with bulkheads through the sides of this filtration tank, I had to hang upside down in the filtration tank to hook them up where they belong. This is a pretty hard task. I put a safety rope on. I didn't want to fall head first down into this 7-foot deep tank. This is the view inside the upflow filtration tank. This 4-inch pipe to the right is the line that all the water drains back into and goes to the very bottom of the tank. It goes through the filtration media into a void space underneath. The water rises back up through the filtration media. So this little 2-inch line right here is the return line for the turtles in the research program. The 4-inch line to the right is the main return from the large turtles. And then this 3/4 inch line right here is the line pumping the water out to the aquariums. And because the return line for the turtles from the research program was below the floor, I had to maintain a lower water level in this filtration tank. I used to have a mark above the floor and would maintain the water level at that mark. Now it would need to be below the floor, and the deck plate that goes over the pit would hide that water level. So next I had to build a floating water level indicator that I could see above the deck plate. And of course I wanted to do this turtle man cheap. They sell float gauge for rain barrels, but they're pretty expensive. So I installed a bulkhead in the top of my tank. That way I could screw an 1.5-inch male pipe fitting on each side and glue some PVC in that to work with. Then I took this piece of PVC and I cut the side out of it with a vibratory saw. That way I could see when the little float indicator was going up and down. I used a hole saw to cut a plastic disc out of PVC, flattened it when it was warm with a hot air gun, and glued it in as a guide for a fiberglass driveway marker. I glued a Gatorade bottle on the end of the fiberglass driveway marker, and it would work as a float. On the end of that marker, the fiberglass rod would slide up and down the PVC guides with an indicator on top of it to show me the water level that was down below the floor. This worked great, and there was no more guesswork to that. Today's the day. This has been several weeks in the making. The turtles that are in our research program have been hooked into our centralized filtration system, and I'm done. Now I'm able to place Crumb, the smaller alligator snapping turtle that we take out to use for teaching purposes, back to his normal position, which is going to be sitting right there. We placed the cover back over the filter tank and put Crumb back where he belonged, hooked him into the centralized filtration system as he was before, and this project came to a close. I really want to thank you for watching. I enjoy showing you the things I do, and I love building things with my hands. You're lifting your life up with your own 2 hands when you get out there and make something. Go out and love what you do.